welcome back, everybody, to the Derby City Fandom podcast. I am one of your hosts, Colin Curtis. With me, we have Jake.
Hey, everybody.
And Kenny.
Hello, hello. This is Colin's episode tonight.
Yeah, and guess where we're visiting, boys?
Oh, gosh. Well, we had two things wrap up. A movie that's pretty much, stomping the box office left and right. But, I mean, it's not like we don't know what we're talking about, so go ahead.
But we are actually going to visit a universe that is outside of our universe. And
a galaxy.
Yeah,
far,
a galaxy far, far away. We are doing the Acolyte.
Season wrap up.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
The show has, oh, God, what's the word? It has a lot of mixed reviews, leaning towards the negative.
You know, I was actually trying to look up some reviews about the show, and I saw more negative than positive. But then I saw an article saying that there's a lot of bomb reviews, and they think in the article that
It got review bombs, so that's why it's so low score-wise.
Exactly. And,
That happens.
that does happen, and I'm wondering if, some AI got into it. I think I saw
Bunch of bot accounts.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I'm curious to actually see how people feel about it, and we at Derby City are definitely gonna let you know how we feel about it.
Yeah, so I will preface this a little bit. We have done a first impressions. If you don't know what we're talking about, go look it up. We had some initial hope for this series, and then
And then the rest of the season
and
happened.
the rest of the season happened.
But as a wrap up, shall we get into the scores on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes?
Go right on ahead.
Oh boy.
I'm going to take a wild guess.
You want to take some guesses?
Sure.
I'm down. Go ahead.
I already know the IMDb, so I won't guess that one. But is it a 4.5 on Rotten Tomatoes or 45%, I suppose?
Jake?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Gosh.
68%.
Well, this will definitely prove that there's some bomb reviews going on.
You about to
So
tell me I have like a
IMDb,
2.1.
Kenny was pretty much spot on, 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
And Rotten Tomato had actually 80%.
Okay.
So
That seems a bit more correct. This show has problems.
there's definitely some
Choices
some
were
problems.
made.
And
that
so
most
that's
people don't
why
agree with.
I don't think these scores are accurate at all, in my opinion. And people just need to. Anyway, what would you all give this series overall, personally?
I think it's a 6.
Jake?
Yeah, my immediate thought was something like 5.5.
I'm going to lean more towards Kenny. I'm going to say 5.9 or 6.
I'm Price is Right in it over here. Okay.
Yeah. It had, I mean, I don't want to say this, but it had potential.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time,
And the story went sideways, I think.
I mean,
Do we want to begin? So we did kind of like a mid-season talk, so to speak, as well.
yeah.
Do you think that the back end of the show helped it at all?
Nope.
Because my favorite episode was when Kymir, murdered everybody. Because that was like the big action scene, right? We're introduced to, this guy that is by all definition a Sith, but he doesn't consider himself one.
That's one of the very few things that stands out to me, Kenny. I agree with you. Was the one action scene, like where the Jedis were fighting. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I give them that. but the rest of it,
Not so much.
I don't know what to say.
Like it. I guess I'll make a comparison here. It has like the same kind of problem that I didn't like in House of Dragons season 1, where there's just a lot of flashbacks, and it's just like I feel like this could have been summed up all in like one episode instead of it being like spread out over like 2, 3, 4. And then it just keeps like reoccurring. It's just like, oh, well, here's this other kernel of information that you need to know about this thing that happened 12 years ago.
Yeah, I just think the whole thing was a flop. I mean, focusing on more of the back half, the finale, it didn't achieve. Like, I think I'll speak for myself here. I was going in expecting something new. Like, we were promised something a little bit newer, like a different to get away from the old guard of Star Wars. And I just think it failed. Like, the whole thing flopped. It wasn't exciting. Like, it was cool to watch. I don't regret watching it, but I would never go back and rewatch it. Nothing stands out to me other than maybe a clip here or there. Pacing was kind of odd. Plot was a little weird. I don't know. You guys disagree?
No, I don't disagree. I'm just gonna add a little more to what you were saying, Jake. I just feel like the show had little depth, and the plot for me just didn't.
I didn't care.
Like, they just kept doing, like, what, Kenny, did you say there's a lot of flashbacks?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there were a lot of flashbacks. It honestly could have just been a movie where it all took place, everything that happened, if you will, in one place, and then they just go on and go forward, because it seemed like they were just, like, doing one point of view from, like, episode 2 from like Soul's point of view, and then episode 3 was really from Osha's point of view, and then episode 4 was from May's point of view. They just kept doing that kind of shit back and forth, and it just got boring. I got tired of it. It seemed rushed. It's poorly executed, little depth, like I said. There were some cool, like you all said, some action scenes, and the choreography was cool.
I hate beating up on it, but the one word I would describe it is boring.
I was thinking the same way. Like, that pretty much nails this series, is that everything in it, aside from like the literal middle episode for this season, was just not engaging in any way. And then there's like other little like lore bits that, just kind of tick people off. I guess it's a cool thing that there's like this one consciousness split into two people kind of thing going on, but then it's just like they trivialize it in the same episode that they bring it up in.
See, I mean, the most exciting part was the very end of the season
you just
finale.
Get
you
just
just
get
get
Yoda.
Yoda. You're like,
Yeah,
okay,
that's it. I mean,
all right.
yeah, it just, I don't know, they introduced Darth Plagueis, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's just creeping out from a cave, and you just see like his fingers and whatnot. That's definitely Plagueis. He had the, did he have Sith eyes? I don't remember. Maybe they were just different color because of the species he is, but that is for sure Darth Plagueis. And so he's basically pulling a Palpatine, essentially, or Darth Sidious, I guess, if we're going to go by that. And, orchestrating from behind the scenes and watch it all play out without revealing himself. So that's kind of the vibe I get. And then, which then brings me to the question of, like, all right, this is 100 years before the Phantom Menace. Does that kind of just ruins the age? Like, I thought Plagueis was a little later. I mean, obviously before Phantom Menace, but like a little after from where the setting is now.
Sure. No, I guess you can make the argument that, if he's like a different race and, different lifespan.
I mean, he's from the whatchamacallit clan, so
The
Banking Clan,
Banking,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it just baffles me. And then Kiadi Mundi or whatever the fuck his name is, that Jedi. You see him in the prequels, so that kind of just ages him significantly.
Oh yeah, the guy's like actually at least 100, right?
More than 100.
More than 100 by the time we see him.
Yeah, more than 100 by the time we see him. Yeah, it's just like little plot holes like that, and it just, I mean, I kind of saw this coming where, they're looking for May, and eventually she is going to turn to the good side, and May was actually going to become a Sith or become an Acolyte, whatever you want to call it. I kind of saw that coming, but the way they went about it just didn't really do it for me, especially when, they use their force power to make May lose her memory.
Yeah, that is a light side technique used
It's just
by
like
Jedi. How does that make you feel?
So basically, from this point on, we are restarting the whole season 1. We are looking now for Osha, not May.
Yeah,
it's just
basically they just flipped the script, like almost literally.
100%. That's just bad writing. And then the second thing that I want to point out is the fact that they, I thought it was really cool at first when they introduced, a kyber crystal being transitioned into
that it feeds off of like emotion instead of
right.
I guess what was commonly more accepted as like you had to go and like corrupt the crystal, inflict pain, make it bleed, so to speak.
Right. And there's a little more to it than what we saw in the show. And so that at first it was really cool, but then I started to think about it after I saw the episode. I was like, well, that's not entirely how it should be done. But then I realized, I saw later on after that they actually went into Revenge of the Sith and actually did that same exact thing when Anakin goes into the temple and he's about to kill the younglings and he turns on his lightsaber. That's when the kyber crystal bleeds and then turns the lightsaber red. They literally edited that in the movie on Disney Plus. I can confirm that. And it's just like, holy shit. In the theater, when I first saw this, it was just a freaking regular lightsaber. Now they're freaking changing parts of the movie.
Of the prequels, though, they used to only ever change like 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, but
to
then
kind of make it mesh well.
But
now
they're
finally messing with 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, but they also did that in Return of the Jedi and freaking put Anakin Skywalker as a Force ghost at the end when they're freaking down on what's the freaking planet called with all the Ewoks?
Yavin 4, the moon.
Right. So
what's wrong with the Force ghost?
They have it as young Anakin. It should be
like an older Anakin, basically. But what he's getting at is that it's also just a post-release edit.
Yeah.
To kind of make everything mesh well. Disney and LucasArts have been doing that for years. But seeing that being done again, but to like one of the prequel films,
so that already happened before.
Interesting.
But then they did that with the Acolyte and Revenge of the Sith, and I was just like, dude, y'all got to stop doing this shit, man.
People are going to think that Greedo shot first all of a sudden.
No way. I'm sorry. I don't care how slow you freaking play that scene in that movie. Han shot first. You can't convince me otherwise. I'm a Star Wars nerd. I freaking love this universe. This is what I grew up watching. But when you take shit and do what they did with the Acolyte and what they do with the movies, making
post-release edits,
right? Come on. Come on.
You know, some poor guy had to spend all of 10 minutes turning a lightsaber from blue to red. You know, Whoopi but it's still the principle of the matter.
And before the show, like when I saw the trailer and everything, I was under the impression this was just going to be a show where it's from a Sith point of view, right?
It
Were
comes
you all,
off as that.
were
just
you
in the
all under
name.
that impression as well?
Yeah. Well, Sith Acolyte has always been a title within like the different Sith structures, I suppose. Like they're kind of like power structure, how their systems are set up.
Well, I mean, all right, so this is where I'm coming from. It basically, like, we're supposed to have sympathy for the Sith. That's what I'm kind of getting at, is we're supposed to have sympathy for the Sith, and the Jedi are a bunch of conniving, freaking awful fucks.
Yeah.
And
I don't really care how they portray the Jedi in this series. It kind of irritated me.
yeah, it
Well-
definitely irritates me.
It's a bit more realistic to how the Jedi kind of are in like all the other bits of media, is that they're basically they're in it for like the galaxy as a whole. Like, but then like behind the veil, they're just like, we can't let people know that we are actually kind of bad ourselves.
See, I don't know if I like that though. And what do you mean by other bits of media?
Oh, like the Jedi is using their powers to like erase memory and doing different things like that. That's not new, so to speak. I mean, I guess it is new in like the official canon now, but in like video games and
on
whatnot.
screen it's new,
On
but
screen, it's new.
in books and other media, like
It's
you
been
said,
around
it's-
for a minute.
Right. And so, yeah, it's just, it just really grinds my gears the way that they went about this. And I honestly want to say I hope they have a season 2 to like redeem themselves. But if season 2 is just as bad,
If it gets
or
canceled because this one did so poorly,
yeah, like at this point, just take it off Disney Plus. Say, hey guys, we make a public announcement. Say we fucked up. Everything that we produced, we have now taken off. Nothing actually happened.
Candidly, I don't want a season 2. I'd rather just come up with something different.
But they also have a series coming out in like December or something. It's called the Skeleton Crew. It's like
Skeleton Crew,
Jude Law and a bunch of other cats in it. So yeah, I'm excited to see that, but I hope it's not a flop like this show. I mean, Jesus.
well, I wonder, do you think Star Wars has had like the same kind of problem that Marvel has, where it's just like they release like one show is really good, then the one that follows it up just doesn't meet the same expectations, so it flops. But then the one right after it ends up being pretty good. So they just kind of take turns of being like, good or bad in terms of quality.
See,
I think they don't.
I don't
their
think-
audience.
I mean, yeah, I understand what you're saying, Kenny, but this is kind of my take on it. So, yes, that, but I also want to say, like, the universe has, like, a set character base, and so we see a lot of the same characters throughout the movies, right?
Sure.
And even in the shows. So we have literally established a relationship with all of these characters, whether that be Obi-Wan, Anakin, whomever. And then they start introducing new characters, whether it's 100 years before the Phantom Menace or freaking, these last 3 films that have come out with Rey and all those other shitty actors, and then they kill off Han Solo. Like, I just, come on.
I know it's breaking your heart to see your boys die, but sometimes the story needs to end for characters.
Right.
It might not end the way you wanted to, but
Yeah.
unless like your Yoda who lives for like 800 years, the majority of the cast,
Yeah.
is only going to be around for
he's-
like a normal human lifetime.
He's in it all. And so that's what I kind of think is what they're doing with like the Marvel, is they're trying to bring back those characters that everybody loved, and all these new Marvel series and movies that are coming out here shortly. Or if an actual actor dies, then they replace that character with another actor, but they're keeping that character around.
Do you guys want to talk Robert Downey Jr.?
No, we're gonna, no. That's another. That's
living
another.
long enough to become the villain.
No, we're not doing that right now. We're gonna wait.
That
till
might be its own.
We're gonna wait till that movie actually.
Back to the Acolyte. I couldn't stop laughing, man. So the season finale, there's a fight scene between Osha and May.
Yeah.
And I don't know, they're like in their old bedroom or whatever the scene is.
Yeah.
But it's the worst fight scene I think I've ever seen in my life. And it's so fake. Like, they do the weird, like, leg swing where she's like, jumping over the leg or whatever. It's nowhere close to being realistic or looking real whatsoever. I was rolling laugh the whole. Did you guys pick up on that? Did you pay attention to?
Well, I mean, that's always been kind
it was
of some
horrendous.
Of the
horrendous. So not only was like what I agree with what Colin was saying, that not only was this kind of boring and rushed, and the pacing was just there's so many flaws, and then on top of that, like all the acting just wasn't there.
Yeah.
I'm like, what did we do? Like, how much money did this thing cost? What in the world?
You know, I could probably actually tell you what the budget is if you give me a second.
See, like, and that whole
what a joke, man! What a joke!
That whole short scene where Osha and May are fighting, and then you got freaking Soul fighting with Chimera, where fuck his name is. It's just like, even after Soul is killed, it's just like, yeah, freaking here comes Vernestra. She just comes and tries to save the day, but she's actually too late, and
then
so
you realize it's actually
then she's
all
able to
her fault.
use the Force to like.
Did you guys
depict
feel
what happened, and then long story short, they freaking just pin it all on Soul in that Senate hearing or whatever, and I'm just like, what? To save your own ass, you want to make this one particular master look like shit?
Like the one that was actually like
who
like,
at the very
the
beginning was
moral
trying to tell you, hey, there's some shit going on, by the way. Oh, I don't believe you. No, we've been at peace for millennia, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and maybe you guys can correct me on this. I was kind of confused on that whole thing, too. Like, they blame Soul, but then the entire time I was watching, I was like, none of this is Soul's fault, right?
No.
He was just trying to, he was like, I don't know, there's some evil witches doing some evil shit. That was his perspective on it all.
Yeah.
Well,
something went wrong, and he just tried to go save a kid, but then all of a sudden, I guess we're to believe he's the bad guy.
He
I don't know.
killed the witch because she freaking turned into this black dust shit, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And so he reacted and freaking because he thought she was coming after him, I guess, and so he had to defend himself. But then she turned into a black smudge dust thing, and then she comes back and ta-da! There's a sword through her. Whoop-de-freaking-do.
Yeah. That's another problem I had with it was I didn't really connect with any of the characters. And you guys might disagree with this, but when Soul died, I was like...
Soul was the connecting character for a lot of people.
Oh, really? It wasn't for me. I was just like,
for me, he was. Chimera was
goes
up there when he started being more of a player in the actual show.
Honestly, I was cheering him on for a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
The only character I liked was the weird little creature thing that couldn't talk. That was just
like
sniffing
the one,
trails.
the tracker.
Yeah.
He's the only
Honestly,
character
that dude was like, dude, he's fucking cool as shit.
Yeah, give him a spinoff.
Give him his own show. He was more entertaining than the rest of them. Shit.
Right. Oh boy.
Kenny, what are your thoughts? A lot of Colin and I talking.
Well,
your candid thoughts.
I guess I can go into Soul. To me, was the thing kind of grounding me in this show because he was the only one that actually seemed to have a decent moral compass.
He reminded me of the Jedis I knew. Or
yeah, he's a classic Jedi. He's closer to a Qui-Gon.
Yeah,
where he's this fatherly figure trying to help out. Basically this girl that got orphaned. Rather traumatically, and trying to do right by her and then him doing his best to still follow the Jedi code, but then still be a good adoptive dad, for the lack of a better word. And once he dies, it's just like, well, there goes my investment in this series.
Exactly. So, like, when they end up doing a season 2, what character are we supposed to have an attachment to? Who are we supposed to actually, like, follow? Because Vernestra, she seems like a stuck-up bitch.
Yeah.
And she blamed everything on Soul, even though it wasn't really his fault at all. And he tried to explain to her some shit's going down, but she chose to ignore it. Whatever, fine. But season 2, like, they're going to have to introduce a new character, which seems like a lot of work for me because now I have to freaking follow somebody else.
Right.
I guess I'm cheering for the Sith now.
Do you think there's actually going to be a season 2? I don't think there's going to be.
You think they're not going to re-up it?
No, I genuinely don't think they're.
They've invested so much money into this freaking show.
I want to say that they are, mostly because I think they've already done the filming, but that doesn't mean it will ever see the light of day.
I'm not convinced there's going to be a season 2.
I think you're wrong. I think there's going to be a season 2, and it's either going to be a flop or, God, I hope I'm wrong, and it's going to be freaking awesome.
They're going to make it all Yoda-based, maybe.
I mean, yeah, that was honestly the coolest part. Like you said, Jake, got a reveal of Yoda. So he definitely has to have some kind of part in season 2.
Right.
You can't introduce a major character like that, or a profile, really, and not have a season 2. You can't. You just can't. That's going to piss a lot of people off. Not that we're not already pissed off about this show, but it's going to go even further.
Yeah. I do feel like some of this does kind of fall into the weird bubble of somewhat inside the writer's strike, somewhat outside of the writer's strike that we had those handful of years ago now.
That was forever ago.
You think so?
Yeah. Well, scripts are done far more in advance than the actual production and editing stuff.
Yeah, but you can go back into, like, even when you are filming, you can go and change up the script.
Sure, but what that then causes is an issue with deadlines, and investors like their deadlines to be met.
I'd rather the freaking deadline not be met and the show be good than
I agree with you. Don't get me wrong. I totally 100%
they're early
agree
before
with you.
the deadline. Like, okay, you actually met the deadline and actually you finished it before the deadline. Let's get it out there and show it to the people and see what they think. Well, the people have decided this show sucks.
Yeah.
Damn. I didn't really want to come off this aggressive for this show because I'm a freaking nerd for this universe, but at the same time,
yeah.
You guys want to compare it to House of the Dragons
no.
season finale?
Well, let's compare it to something within the universe, but much later, I guess, in the timeline. So, I think most of us are watching the Acolyte, having just finished relatively recently Ahsoka. I was about to call it the OSHA series. Oh gosh, but the
Acolyte makes Ahsoka look a lot better. I think,
doesn't it?
I kind of like Ahsoka. I mean, there was parts that, but this after watching Acolyte, I was like, Ahsoka wasn't that bad.
No, yeah, no.
You definitely left that series caring about some characters. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, I definitely enjoyed Ahsoka very much. It was.
So if that's Disney's game plan,
I mean,
let's throw some crap on the walls.
My idea of okay, Ahsoka was good to mid, but then the Acolyte was bad. So then the next season, next series that comes out is going to be great by comparison, right? Maybe that's how they do it. Their off year ones, they just don't throw all that much into. After looking it up, this show did have a pretty significant budget.
180 million.
180 million. That's not nothing.
Sounds like a lot to me.
It's more than I make in a year.
I bet. So
that seems a little low for that.
that's because there's not actually that much in terms of special effects. That's where most of, aside from like marketing, most of your production is spent in CGI.
Sure.
So you don't get a whole lot of that. Most of it is like, to their credit, most of it is practical, so like set design, practical costumes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Animatronics.
at least back in the day with the original films, yes, it was a lot of practical design, but now they have the freaking whole room that's 360 and they just use, they just light up the screen and just have some kind of background, whether it be desert or whatever, ocean, something like that, thanks to Industrial Light and Magic and much, much more. So,
yeah,
that's probably the only positive thing I can say about this series is they had to have used some of that in this.
sure. Oh boy, so like they had like so much kind of going for it. They could have played off of like, okay, Osha and May kind of like represent like the yin and the yang of the Force kind of stuff, but then it's just like, oh,
No, they
then you
literally
just like
switch roles.
then you just mind wipe the one and you cause her to flip sides.
Yeah, when you say that, like, I think they literally did say that in the show. Like, when I think of, like, a mind wipe, I'm thinking, like, they're talking about a droid. This is a person we're talking about.
Yeah,
It's just like,
comes off as diabolical, even if it is the Jedi doing it, right? That's always been like the kicker. It's like the Jedi are capable of very evil things that they do in the name of
See, I hate
peace
that
and
though.
justice.
That did not resonate with me at all.
It's not supposed to. That's the thing. That's
I
where
just-
Collins was saying earlier. They make you want to feel like the Sith are like, correct and feel morally obligated to do the evil stuff they do because they're forced to do the evil things that they have done.
Yeah.
it's just, like, in all the movies and all the shows, Mace Windu says it, like, we're keepers of the peace, not soldiers. But every time we see a Jedi in a
They're
show
leading
or
an
a
army.
movie, they're literally leading a battalion into battle. And so, in a way, this show is a little strange to me because we're told that it's been a millennia of peacetime and no war or anything, and then yeah, I want to see some bloodshed.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where the majority of people would rather see this go. It's like, so what happened before? Like, and that's kind of like what we get here. It's like some of these like side stories of like, okay, like, the Federation is around. Like, what's the Federation up to? Why does the Federation feel the need to have all of their like, military be a bunch of droids and all of that?
Like, I mean, we literally see that in episode 1,
I think so, yeah.
and she's
Just hanging out on one of the ships, be like, yeah, I'm just a repair girl. All the stuff that the robots are supposed to be able to do, nah, I can do it better.
yeah. It's a shame, really.
Yeah,
The show had potential in the very beginning. I had such hype for it, and I was ended up being let down. And of course, yeah. Anyway, all right. Closing thoughts, y'all.
Show was boring. If there is going to be season 2, just throw Yoda as much as possible. Yoda.
right.
I've switched teams. I was hoping for something new, but now I'm like, you know what?
You-
Just give me some Yoda.
You just want your comfort blanket of like, weird green gremlin.
Yep, damn straight.
Kenny?
Personally, I also agree with that. Some more of the old style of Star Wars would probably do this series if they're going to give it another season. Would probably do it some justice and make it more palatable for a lot of people. my understanding is that the director has not been confirmed to be the same for the second season, if there is one. So maybe with a change of directors, things might go a different direction. We shall see.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like to me that they just didn't have anyone that has worked on previous work, whether that be the Clone Wars or some of the earlier films or even later films, like Jon Favreau and a bunch of other cats. Like
They didn't bring in Filoni, hell.
no, like I mean, a lot of people talk shit about Filoni, but at the same time, like he knows his shit. Like I see him like on reels and YouTube shorts and even interviews and that stuff.
He puts thought into it.
He there's passion. I can see it.
Yeah.
Now there's some things that sure maybe I don't agree with, but that's just the business that we're in, and that's just his point of view, and obviously he does a great job. So with that being said, I hope there's a season 2, but I want it to be more focused on the Sith. I want to know more about Darth Plagueis. I've freaking heard all about him on podcasts and looking up on YouTube, other things I can find out about him, but actually seeing Darth Plagueis in live action, I think there's potential there. They could freaking really bring in a much larger audience, really get the people back on track with this universe, make them happy.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people will agree with me if Darth Plagueis was more involved and not just creeping out from behind a rock, so to speak.
Yeah, doing his best impression of Gollum.
Yeah, I don't
Being some little creep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, that's all I gotta say. Kenny, where can people find us?
Well, Colin, people can find us here on YouTube. Anywhere you can stream your podcast, give us a listen. I believe we are also on Facebook and the Instagram.
Yep.
Derby City Fandom.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think that just about covers where you can find us. If you have any ideas, feel free to leave a comment down below. Like and subscribe as always, folks.
Yeah. Gentlemen, it's been fun. It's been real.
Oh, gosh. All right. That being said, let's go talk about some House of Dragons.
See you, buddy.